Hello and welcome to day 68 of our 2790 series. Today we begin Paul's letter to Timothy, and this is a personal letter. It's not really meant to be read out loud to the church. This is in response to some correspondences that Paul and Timothy have been making regarding Timothy's appointment to be the pastor at the church of Ephesus. You remember that that church began in a riot with the Silversmiths Union being all in an uproar over the burning of the idols. And the theater and trying to kill Paul, and Paul appoints Timothy to be the pastor there. The text tells us that the church is infiltrated by those who would undermine the gospel, and that there are actually people coming to church for the purpose of undermining the church so that the church lacks power in that city. And so obviously we're missing the letter that that Timothy wrote to Paul, and so Paul's simply responding. And I love the first sentence because I've had a lot of pastoral friends who probably had this similar conversation with their district superintendent or their supervisor. Obviously Timothy has said to Paul, "You need to get me out of here. These people are crazy." And Paul's response to Timothy is, "I urge you, stay there in Ephesus. Finish the course. Do what you were meant to do. Tell those people who are disrupting your worship service to be quiet. Get strong leadership in the church." And Paul says to Timothy, "No, you can't leave right now. You need to stay and finish what you were meant to accomplish." Ephesus is a great church. It's just got a few people in it who are disruptive, and they're causing pain and division for the rest of the people. And Paul has great confidence in the Spirit of God that lives in Timothy, that Timothy has the leadership to bring this church back to its purpose, to worship the risen Christ and to present the gospel to the community. And so he urges Timothy to stay put. The other big thing that happens here is Paul says, listen, pray for the leadership of our society. He doesn't really seem to encourage the church to transform society, but rather pray for leaders and, in his words, and in the meanwhile, simply lead a gentle and a quiet life as Christians in the midst of the society where you are placed. And then in chapter 3 is a chapter that many in the church have used to promote the idea that women really can't be leaders in the church, that all of the leadership of the church needs to be male. And you can understand how that's the case. And Paul's letter to Timothy isn't the only place where that's mentioned. And so we have to come to grips with the reality of what is being said here. It's why the Catholic Church won't ordain women as priests. It's why many of the Anabaptist Church, the Mennonites, the Brethrens, and the Baptists, they will not allow women to be pastors. But in the Methodist Church, we do. And that's because we believe that women can be called of God. And one of the examples in the scripture is the church at Philippi, where Lydia is clearly a leader. And there are many, many other female leaders. And Paul gives thanks to those female leaders. And so I would encourage you to consider the thought that because this is a personal letter to Timothy, that this is a specific regulation that Paul is giving to Timothy because of what's happening in the church where the women are being disruptive during the worship service, and Paul doesn't want to encourage Timothy to allow any of those women to be leaders. So you continue to enjoy your reading in 1 Timothy.